Thank you, Mr. Chair and members. It's an honor to be in the Public Safety Committee once again this year. I first want to thank committee staff for their hard work on this bill and acknowledge that I will be accepting the proposed committee amendments that we've worked on. Mary Bella's Law will bring equity and justice to victims throughout our state and close a loophole in California's elderly parole program that allows serial rapists and sex offenders to walk free decades before serving their full sentences, simply because they turned 50 years old. In 2020, a last-minute budget bill quietly expanded elderly parole without a single policy or fiscal hearing at all that year. The budget bill lowered the elderly parole age from 60 to 50, making violent and repeat sex offenders eligible for early release after serving just 20 years, no matter how long their original sentence was set for. Survivors and their families should never have to live in fear that their attacker could walk free long before serving their full sentence. Nor should they be forced to relive their trauma by repeatedly fighting to keep their perpetrators behind bars. This bill is about honoring the promises made to victims when their attackers were sentenced. Our bill is named after Mary Johnson, who is here with me to testify today, and Bella Clark, two survivors whose lives were upended when their attackers became eligible for elderly parole. It's stories like theirs that we would like to avoid as we right a wrong in passing SB 286. Mr. Chair and members, with me this morning to testify, first will be Mary Johnson to tell her story, and followed by San Diego District Attorney Summer Stephan. If I can turn it to Mary, please.
Yes, thank you very much. Good morning.
Good morning.
Press the button on
Good morning.
Yes, thank you very much.
Good morning. I am Mary of Mary Bella's Law. By now you've heard my story. My uncle raped 4 women before raping and committing heinous acts on me as a foster child for nearly a year. Yet I do not stand here today asking for empathy or compassion. Emotions are fleeting. Emotions will get lost with the next story or in the next bill. Instead, I stand here with one question. When did our perpetrators become the victims? When did ensuring our perpetrators serve out their sentences that they so rightfully earned become the wrong thing to do? Sentences that were given by judges and juries and upheld by appellate courts after knowing the egregious things that they did to our minds and our bodies. I stand here today, a therapist, a healer, still trying to teach my nervous system the difference between a man attacking my body and a man called my husband in conflict with me. When did holding the person responsible for that damage become wrong? When did we stop wanting to think about the most basic statistic related to recidivism? The average victim does not disclose until the age of 52. This means that these perps who are released under the elderly parole law will never face their victim, which means that the statistic will always be incorrect. When did we stop thinking? As a marginalized person with all the odds stacked against me, I understand how we the people need to be protected. But when did I stop being a part of the we and we the people? Finally, while we can all agree that we cannot litigate to the worst of them, I ask, when did men who rape and molest women, children, and babies stop being the worst of them? With that, I ask that you please say yes to SB 286. Thank you.
Thank you so very much for being here today. Madam DA.
Good morning, Chair and members. I'm Summer Stephan, San Diego County's elected district attorney, but also spent a career pioneering a sex crimes division and looking in the eyes of victims and children and the devastation that sex crimes cause for a lifetime. When the law changed in 21 with AB 3234, it left an indelible impact. We didn't know how high that impact is until the cases began coming before parole boards. Recently, I had a call with a rape victim whose boyfriend was also executed. And the terror in her voice, reliving the crime that happened to her 20 years ago. And it's something that I can't describe. But the fact that this rapist was able to come up for parole after a jury trial, after the courage to come forward and testify, and the jury convicted him, the appeals were all in the favor of the people, and that all of a sudden the law changed, and at 50 years old, he was eligible for parole. And having to make that call, just picture the number of crime victims who, in a crime that is mostly underreported, who come forward and go through all of this. And I didn't know how to explain it to her. I explained that our Constitution in California enshrined victims' rights in 28D section, but we don't talk about that very often. For many years now, we've only talked about the rights of the accused, but there is nowhere that I saw that an accused rapist had the right to be paroled at 50 years old. There is no documented evidence that anyone becomes elderly at 50 years old. This law never made sense. It doesn't make sense, and the injustice that is caused is able to be reversed starting today. And I seek your aye vote on SB 286.
Thank you very much. Okay, I know we have a number of people here to speak in support of SB 286, and we thank you for joining us this morning. We're going to just take your name, your affiliation, if you wish to share it, or the city you're from, and your position on the bill. And so if people can please line up to the microphone to express your support for the bill. We'd appreciate it. And thank you for joining us. Yes.
Good morning. Maureen Byrne from the District Attorney's Office in Ventura, representing the California District Attorneys Association in support.
Good morning. My name is Seek Smith. I'm the founder of Mom and Dad Army, and I am in full support of SB 286.
Good morning. I'm Courtney with Mom Army in Natomas, and I am in full support of this bill.
Good morning. My name is Justice Smith. I'm Mary's daughter, and I'm in full support of this bill.
Good morning. My name is Sabrina Williams. I represent Mom Army, Sacramento County, and Placer County. I'm also a survivor, and I'm in full support.
Good morning. My name is Joanna Call. I'm a survivor, and I am in full support of this bill.
My name is Catalina. I'm Mary's sister, and I'm in full support of SB 286.
Good morning. My name is Margarita Cooper. I am Mary's best friend, and I am in full support.
Hello, my name is Sabrina Wise. I am Bella's mother. I am full support of this bill.
Good morning. My name's Colleen Stan. The media calls me the girl in the box, and I'm in full support of this bill. Thank you.
My name is Clara Ellicott Stansberry. I am Bella's sister, and I am in full support of SB 286.
Hello, my name is Taj Johnson. I'm Mary's husband, and I'm in full support of this bill.
Hi, I'm Bella Clark. I am Bella of Mary Bella's Law, and I am in full support of this bill.
I'm Constance Clark. I'm Bella's aunt, and I support this bill.
I am Jay Nichols. I am Bella's uncle. I am in full support of this bill.
Florentina DeGennaro with Mom Army, Sutter and Yuba County, in full support of this bill.
Hello, my name is Jonathan Jobkey, and I'm a survivor, and I'm in full support of this bill.
I am Violet Coslin, and I am with Jonathan Jobkey, and I support this bill.
Melinda Wozak, here to support a victim and in full support of this bill. Thank you.
God bless you, Judy Velasquez, voice of Jane Doe, pastor of many other Jane Does, and I'm in full support of this bill. God bless.
Good morning. My name is Reverend Jose Velasquez. I am the pastor of Mosaic Church in Temecula, and I'm here to support Mary, one of our parishioners, and we support this bill.
My name is Margarita Velasquez, and I love Mary so much, and I support.
My name is Rena Tomasic, and I'm with Jane Doe's Voice, and I'm fully supporting SB 286.
My name is Tammy McCamish. I'm with Mary, and I'm in full support of this bill.
My name is Alexa Hansen. I'm from Sacramento. I am a violent crime victim advocate, and I am in full support of this bill.
Good morning. My name is Bernadette Miller. I'm a survivor, and I'm in support of this bill.
My name is Sean, and I'm supporting my wife, and I'm in full support of this bill.
My name is Rachel Benavides. I'm from Bumble Bear Coffee, and I am in full support of 286.
My name is Leah Rothman. I'm from Oakland, California. I'm here to stand with Mary, Bella, all the other survivors in support of this bill.
Good morning, Chair and members. Usha Muchler on behalf of the California State Sheriff's Association in support. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Elena Bentley. I represent the Riverside County District Attorney's Office and all the victims of violent crime. We are in full support of this bill.
Hi, I'm the aunt of Michelle Benavides, a victim, and I'm here with Victim Advocate Angels. I am in full support of this bill.
Thank you. Thank you all for being here. Are there any other witnesses in support of SB 286? If you could please approach the microphone. Okay, so we'll now take witness testimony in opposition. We'll take two principal witnesses in opposition to SB 286. And if you could sit in those two seats right there, we'd appreciate it. And you'll have 2 minutes each to address the committee on the bill. Thank you.
Thank you to the committee for allowing me to speak. My name is Gary Harrell, and I am a former lifer here and opposed to SB 286 by Senator Jones. Although I was eligible for parole in 1984, I wasn't released until 40 years later after many parole hearings. As you can see, it's not easy to be granted parole. By the time I was granted, I had spent the last 2 decades of my prison time turning my life around and trying to understand what led me to make the choices I did, including the horrible decision to participate in a murder. I went to rehabilitative programs and was supported by other lifers who sat with me in self-help groups. Together, we addressed our past traumas, took responsibility for our actions, and discussed how we could become constructive members of society. After decades of bettering ourselves, we passed on our hard-earned lessons to the younger men in the prison. As we grew older, we reflected on our past mistakes and we changed our ways. We saw each other becoming grandfathers. We lost our family members to old age. Many of my friends grew sick and some of my friends died in prison before they could come home. We all slowed down. Today, I am grateful to be home with my family. I work a day job in the morning and work on my art. In the afternoon, I also run my own nonprofit that gives homeless people in Sacramento food and hygiene. I have taken so much from others, and now it's time to give back and do my part to make the world a better place. I hope you can see that the people who will be impacted by this bill are people like me who have changed and want to give back. I urge you to vote no on SB 286.
Thank you, sir. Hi, good morning.
Good morning. Before I begin my formal remarks, I'll just point out that we just learned when we walked in this room that there had been amendments to the bill, apparently to remove murder as one of the exclusionary factors, which is significant, but we still have some concerns. But Mr. Harrell, you just heard from, was convicted of murder, as he indicated. He was not convicted of a sex offense, which apparently is still covered by the bill. So good morning, Chair and members of the committee. I'm Keith Watley. I'm the founding executive director of Uncommon Law. We are a nonprofit organization that provides trauma-informed counseling and legal representation and policy advocacy for people serving life sentences. I'm strongly urging your no vote on SB 286. Early would be if someone were released while they're still dangerous. This is not about early release. Elderly parole is not. That's never been the standard of any parole hearing in California. The overwhelming majority of people considered for elderly parole are actually not granted parole. In fact, only about 10% are granted when they first become eligible. This bill would have us spend millions of dollars to incarcerate people decades after any violence risk has subsided. We can't afford to take such a misguided approach. Mr. Harrell was considered for parole about 20 times before he was finally released. And by that time, he qualified for youth parole and elderly parole, and had the parole board psychologist find that he presents a low risk. And you add to that, he had reached the age of 65 before he finally was granted parole. 45 years into a 7-to-life sentence. Excuse me. So we have, in California in 2014, the state acknowledged that older people have generally aged out of violent crime and therefore present a much lower risk. The state convinced the federal court to endorse its elderly parole program, and the legislature expanded it in 2020 with zero increase in recidivism. The recidivism rate for people released from elderly parole is 2.2%. 2.2%. And when you focus on violent reoffense, it's 0.2% is the recidivism rate. In other words, the process works in terms of protecting public safety. We think that this bill would be it'd be irresponsible. It would be a waste of resources to keep incarcerated people decades beyond the point at which they're any risk. And so we urge a no vote on this bill. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Okay, we'll take any other witnesses in opposition to Senate Bill 286. If you could please approach the microphone and state your name, affiliation, and position for the record.
Natasha Minsker, Smart Justice, California. Appreciate the amendments. We remain opposed.
Margot George. I am also a survivor, and I'm here today on behalf of the California Public Defenders Association, and we oppose this bill. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ignacio Hernandez on behalf of the California Attorneys for Criminal Justice. In opposition, we will review the amendments.
Thank you.
Mark Judkins from Los Angeles, and I oppose this bill and encourage you to do the same.
My name is Carrie Posey for Rio Linda, and I oppose this bill.
Roger Honeycutt, businessman from Modesto. I strongly oppose this bill taking decision power from the parole board.
Aubrey Rodriguez with ACLU California Action and strong opposition.
Richard Chu from American Canyon, California. I oppose this bill.
Good morning, Emily Harris on behalf of Sister Warriors and Felony Murder Elimination Project in opposition, and I'm also a survivor.
Hello, Liz Bloom Gutierrez. I'm also a survivor, and I'm speaking in opposition on behalf of La Defensa and Initiate Justice.
Good morning, Tana Opliger with Californians United for Responsible Budget. I'm also a survivor of sexual violence, and with great respect to the survivors in this room, I oppose this bill.
Sue Kim on behalf of Uncommon Law, and I'm also a survivor of violent crime and sexual violence in respectful opposition to SB 286.
Marshall Lawler, I'm a reentry attorney, and I'm opposed to this bill. Thank you.
Melanie Kim, San Francisco Public Defender's Office in opposition, and on behalf of Initiate Justice Action in opposition.
Flower Alvarez Lopez with Universidad Popular in San Diego. I'm also a survivor and in strong opposition of this bill.
Hello, Aldasia Green from the Ella Baker Center for Human Rights in respectful opposition to this bill.
Good morning. My name is Eric Kay. I'm with Life Support Alliance, Alliance with Constitutional Sex Offense Laws, and the Anti-Recidivism Coalition. We are in opposition to this bill.
Thank you.
Hi, good morning. My name is Erin Grace, Sacramento, and I oppose this bill.
Carlos Hernandez with Milpa Collective, respectfully in opposition to the bill.
Michelle with Initiate Justice in opposition.
Lee with Initiate Justice in opposition.
Adam Kane with Initiate Justice in opposition.
David Aaron, resident of El Dorado County. I respectfully encourage you to oppose this bill.
Dave Howard, San Francisco, oppose opposition to this bill.
Hema Quetzal, on behalf of Friends Committee on Legislation, oppose the bill.
Thank you. Are there any other witnesses in opposition to SB 286? Okay, thank you for your testimony. If there's a question specifically for any witness, we'll direct that question to that witness, but the committee will now deliberate on the bill and want to just reiterate the amendment that the committee had proposed the senator had accepted, which is under section 3055, subsection H. The section says that this section does not apply if a person is convicted of the following, striking H1 murder, whereas all the other serious felonies would be subject to this bill. So we'll open up for questions or discussion from the committee. Who would like to start? Senator Perez?
First of all, I want to thank the author for accepting the amendments, and I think making this very focused on, I think the population of folks that you're trying to support with this piece of legislation. And want to take a moment just to acknowledge Mary for being here today and for sharing your story. And it's so incredible to see so many of your family members and your loved ones here. I'm a survivor myself, and it's incredible just to hear the number of people that spoke here today, both in support and opposition, that are also survivors. I mean, I think it highlights the amount of violence against women that so many of us experience. And, just want to let you know it's so powerful to have you here, sharing your story. And I know just how hard it is. And, I recognize you're part of a press conference earlier today, and just want to recognize that and your efforts. I also wanted to ask just a couple of questions that I might have for, I don't know if it's the chair or the author, but just in terms of what the bill would be doing, so I make sure that I'm clear. So this would move the elderly parole program hearing. So right now, the consideration would be when someone's 50 years of age, so it would move it back to being 60 years of age. So it doesn't mean that the person won't be paroled, but it does mean that the board won't be required to take certain factors into account and may affect the timing of their first parole hearing date. Is that correct?
Yes, what it does is this bill would, those specific crimes that are delineated in the language would be removed from the elderly parole program. Those incarcerated perpetrators, whatever you want to, would have other parole programs that are available to them, just not the elderly parole program.
And could you share just the difference between, big highlights, but the difference between the elderly parole program and the regular parole program?
Well, the DA might be able to speak better to that, but there's several parole programs that incarcerated people have access to. We're just taking this one off the program. I don't know if the DA
Could you share?
So this only affects
If you could press the mic right in front of you.
This only affects the bill AB 3234 that lowered the parole from 60 to 50 years old. It doesn't go back and address the the elder parole that was over 60 years old. So it only addresses the new amendments that were made in 2021 to 50 years old. It also doesn't change the minimum eligibility. So if somebody had, a conviction, and let's say they had a 20-year to life, and the 20 years was up, no matter what age they were, they would still get their parole hearing. So it doesn't affect the minimum, and it doesn't affect the youthful offender parole eligibility at 26. But that one excludes the category that we're trying to exclude here. So this law just created a parity that was not good, in that the very young would be, if it's a sexual offense, they'd be excluded, but if they're 50, they would be allowed to have parole.
Thank you. That's helpful. Just wanted clarity around that, and I will be supporting your bill. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments from committee member? Senator Sciarta?
Thank you. So just for clarity, all this does is fix what was a gut and amend budget trailer bill that lowered the threshold for elderly parole from 60 to 50 years of age.
Correct.
Okay. One of the things to take note is when it's a budget trailer bill, that's policy. And that's one of the things that some of us have concerns about. And then the bill also reduced the minimum amount of time required to be served in order to be considered for elderly parole from 25 to 20. Does this bill touch that at all, or is it still going to be 20 now?
No, it takes that out too.
It takes that out too, so it goes back to 25.
Correct.
All right. So, my comments on this bill are that somewhere our victims are being left out in the cold. I've had to deal with this with friends of our family. They have a 4-year-old who was strangled. The perpetrator was just charged with murder, although there was evidence that he was trying to sexually assault her, and that's probably why he strangled her. Every couple of years now, they have to go back because the perpetrator hasn't got the right counseling to tell him how to answer the questions right to allow him to get out on parole. I don't know when 50 years old became elderly. 50 years old was elderly when you, back in the 1700s, in the Stone Age, got to 37, you started having to think about where you're going to get buried. I'm 65, and I am not old, okay? You may think I'm old, but I am not. I am perfectly capable of doing any of these heinous things if that's what my mindset was. There's a point at which somebody does things that's so heinous that the incarceration isn't just about making sure they're not dangerous to the public anymore. They already were, and they got to pay for that. Because if they don't, victims wind up paying for it instead. They get victimized all the time until this person does get paroled. And I'm not saying that everybody that does, this gentleman seems like a nice gentleman now. But there are some people, especially when it comes to sexually violent acts, I'm sorry, but having to look over your shoulder, because in this other case, they're deathly afraid because their testimony is what put them in jail. They're deathly afraid that this guy's going to get out and then he's going to do something to them. And that's not fair. That's not justice. And at some point, we have to be a little more common sense about what we're doing. And this bill helps do that. And so I'll be supporting your bill, and I'll move the bill when it's appropriate. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other senators? Senator Gonzalez?
Thank you. And I, too, want to align my comments with Senator Perez. I want to thank you for coming here, both yourself and Bella and the team of moms and friends that you have here, which is, I think, really bold of you to be here and share your story along with your husband who's next to you. And I just want to thank you both for being here, as well as the opposition who is here and told his story as well. I think it's really important to hear both sides of this really nuanced sort of law that we have in place. But I just want to make sure your stories are not dismissed and that we hear, from each of you. I just want to clarify, and I thank the author for bringing this forward, but I do know, I just want to clarify because I don't want this to be, or the victims' experiences to be sensationalized in a way that dismisses their experience, but also gets to the heart of what you're trying to get at too. But I just want to confirm eligibility for this program does not guarantee release, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, and it allows a hearing still to determine safe release on parole supervision, then reviewed by the board's legal team and then the governor's office, correct?
That's all accurate, yes.
Okay, so there's still a process. And then overall, elderly program as it exists, the opposition will say it poses no public safety issue. I believe they're referring to about only 16.6% of elderly parole hearings, resulted in a parole grant.
That sounds reasonable. I don't know that number for sure.
Okay.
But
I just want to get the facts out there so we know what we're working with. But of course, one time is too much, too many times. I will be supporting the bill today, but I just want to make sure that we're very clear as we move forward as to what the Parole program actually does and what process is actually out there. So folks in the public understand that there's still a process during this, if this bill were to move forward. And with that, I just want to say thank you again, and we'll vet.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other senators who wish to ask any questions or comments on the bill? Okay.
Move the bill.
Okay, moved by Ciardo as amended, and turn it back over to Senator Jones to close.
Thank you, Chairman. And I do want to recognize the witnesses, obviously in support, but the gentleman that spoke in opposition as well. Thank you for your story, and thank you for taking advantages of the resources that were allowed you to be paroled and join society. I appreciate that. Also appreciate the witnesses in opposition recognizing that murder has been taken out as one of the crimes, and we're focused mostly on violent sexual crimes in the bill as it is now. SB 286 is bipartisan common sense measure to bring parity across California's age-based parole programs. Mary Bella's law will protect victims' right to closure in some of the most brutal sex offense cases our criminal justice system encounters, and end the practice of dragging victims and families through the parole hearing process simply because their offender had a 50th birthday. I want to thank my witnesses here today for sharing their experiences, and thank you, the committee, for all of your thoughtful input. Thank you for the staff for working on the amendments and helping us get to a point where I think there's some greater agreement on this issue, and ask for your aye vote.
Thank you, Senator, and thank you once again to all the witnesses and your courage to be here today and to tell your story. Not just you, but all the victims who are here today. It makes a huge impact, and so I really want to thank you. And thank you, sir, for being here today and telling your story as well. So the motion by Ciardo is, where's this go next? Okay, is do pass as amended to Senate Appropriations for Senate Bill 286. If you can please call the roll.
Arguin?
Aye.
Arguin, aye. Ciardo?
Aye.
Ciardo, aye. Caballero? Aye. Caballero, aye. Gonzalez? Aye. Gonzalez, aye. Perez?
Aye.
Perez, aye. Wiener?
Aye.
Wiener, aye.
Okay, that motion carries 6-0. That bill is out. Thank you.